Okay, so this is just a quick video of some of the CDs that I own, just because I'm bored and also I can see what I actually own, what I do need, what I don't need. I'll probably do another cupboard after this in a separate video, depending if I'm interrupted or my arm gets really achy. This is all of me media. Another cupboard here with CDs, another cupboard there, another cupboard there, and then there's one behind me. So I'll start off at the top here. I've got a few CDs by Susumu Yokota. He's sadly passed away now. He was an absolute visionary, brilliant stuff. They're all, in fact, with the entire of this collection, I do aim to get first editions because most of the time have better artwork, they sound better, and they're worth more money if you ever get rid of them. So yeah, there's a few imports here. You'll see a few CDs in this collection, if you can get it out, with what's called an Obi strip. It wraps around the side. If they've got that, they're worth a bit more. Sometimes people threw them away. But yeah, they've all entered new cases, and then I put them in a resealable wallet. So yeah, these are his albums. He did a couple of, well, he did quite a few albums under an alias. These are two by Stevia, but it's the same guy. That's one by Prism, but it's again the same guy. And yeah, it's really hard to find this stuff at good prices. It's all out of print. I think they are doing like a box set of different things now, but whether it'll be complete, I don't know. And then onto that, we've got Enigma. Probably dated by some people's opinions, but I think it's just utterly genius stuff, especially if you look into what he did before this, which I'll get to in a minute. But I've got all of his albums there except Voyager, which is in the post actually, so that'll be here soon. Then I've got the Tomb Raider suite, there the synth mixes. I've got the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra CD in another cupboard somewhere, and then a couple of Bill Nelson CDs there. He was in Bebop Deluxe. A couple of Scott Walker CDs. I do need to get Scott 3, and I do need to look into his latest stuff because I like weird experimental stuff. A couple of Grace Jones. Well, I've got a few Grace Jones CDs, but these two Grace Jones ones are imports, and that one specifically is the longer version of the album. Then I've got an album by Andrew Hung, who did the soundtrack to The Greasy Strangler and An Evening with Beverly Loughlin. Two mental, hilarious films. I really recommend them. Matt Berry, which joins back down to here. I've got all of his albums. I do hate Digipack CDs with a passion. You'll see a Thundercat CD I've got in my collection, and it's from Japan because it's the only one you can get in one of these kind of like dual cases. 3 Edwin College CDs. I like his later stuff, but not as good as his earlier stuff, hence only having these. This is the Michael Cretu stuff, him who come up with Enigma I was on about just. So we'll start off with Cretu in Tears. That's a CD single and then an album. They were both in Moti Special and then did a solo album together. That's Pete Cornelius. He's the guitarist who did some stuff with Enigma, but that's like a solo effort they did together. That was his solo album after entering Boney M. He did a solo album, which isn't that great. It's actually a bootleg, but I've got it because it won't rot away like the PDO version. The album he did after that isn't actually on CD in English version, but it is in German. It's called Legionnaires. The Invisible Man, again, that's a first pressing. That was very expensive. The German version of that's called Die Chinese Schmaue. He was married to someone called Sandra, and they're not together anymore, but he produced most of her stuff. That's the long play, again, first pressing, and then Into a Secret Land. I do intend to get some other stuff, but it is again quite expensive to find original pressings, especially where the booklet hasn't been dented in the case as well. So we're on to quite a bit of Giorgio Moroder now. That one there is his recent solo album. Well, I say recent, it was 11 years ago now. That's a CD single with 3 tracks off his, 2 tracks off his E = MC Squared album. That's never had a digital CD release, only vinyl sourced. Some early Schlager and bubblegum stuff he did. Some horrendous 90s MIDI dance music. Soundtrack to Midnight Express, quite a rare compilation album. The original CD of the Scarface soundtrack. I'll actually pull this one out. It's a signed copy From Here to Eternity. His wife, when she was alive, she let me send a CD off to be signed, which is pretty amazing. That CD of Scarface has got remixes on it. Not that great, but I've got it for collector's sake. American Gigolo, it's not that great. It's got some good stuff on it. They like Call Me, Blondie. And then a deluxe CD reissue of Scarface that come out, I think, 3 years ago now, but it was 40 years since the soundtrack had actually been released, which is pretty cool. Up here, I intend to get rid of this, and it's a shame. It's a brilliant album. Sadly, vinyl and MP3 sourced, which is a bit of a joke. It's still sealed. It's actually on eBay. And then, lastly, I'm not going to pull them out of the wallet, but I've got Windswept by Johnny Jewel, Digital Rain by Johnny Jewel, and TV, Themes for Television, I think it was called. So, yeah, that's one cupboard out the way. So this cupboard's a bit fuller. I'll start at the bottom. I've got some David Sylvian, Brilliant Trees, Japanese first pressing, and all of the Japanese stuff back then came with white jewel cases. Dead Bees on a Cake, Secrets of the Beehive, Alchemy, An Index of Possibilities, Gone to Earth. I actually used a Beatles White Album fat box for this one, just to keep them with the white theme. These aren't imports, but they are original CDs. Bit of a collaboration with Holger Chukai from Cannes. And another one. And then this was a collaboration with Robert Fripp. It's a live album, but it's a remix. And then this is a guy who's in a group called Ashra Temple, I think. Very good, ahead of its time. Again, this is another first press CD, and it's actually master sourced because some of them were vinyl sourced, which I absolutely detest. CD single by Vangelis. This was the group that Japan called themselves when they'd split up and reformed, Rain Tree Crow. This is Mike Rutherford's, I think it was his first solo album, absolutely legendary. Does not give a toss about it. It is well overdue a deluxe treatment. Again, this is first pressing. I actually sourced this because other CDs have loads of tape dropouts and sound bad. Blemish, David Sylvian. This is a Japanese import. These Japanese CDs usually contain bonus tracks. Not sure if I mentioned it before, but I hate digipack CDs. I wanted to get this album, but with a jewel case, which meant going and getting one from Japan. Stay Close, that's the drummer from Japan and the drummer from the YMO, the Yellow Magic Orchestra. This is a CD single, which is very expensive and hard to find. First issue of The Buggles, Age of Plastic, Japanese CD. Sounds miles better than the other CDs. The horrendously underrated sequel, I'd say. Second album he did, really, really good stuff. I'm actually seeing Trevor Horn later on in the year, a meet and greet, so they will be signed. Compilation album of Japan, compilation album of David Sylvian. Then 28 days later, soundtrack. Once again, I had to get the Japanese version to get it in a jewel case. I'll start at the top here. This is a various artists disc, so it's got a few different people on. And this is the only place to get Schools Out by Kritu and Tears, the people who I mentioned earlier. Prefab Sprout, Jordan the Comeback. I think it's the best album they did, in my opinion. And then this is an album by some French guy. They thought it was a hoax at first. It was just a direct rip-off of From Here to Eternity by Moroder. Should probably censor that front image. Mike Patton, again under an alias, Peeping Tom. Brilliant stuff on here. The CD actually pops out, slides out. Then we've got some Boards of Canada there. I've kind of gone off them. I haven't listened to them. I have not listened to them in a while. Kraftwerk, all of those are remastered except that one. I do need to upgrade that so they all match. The sleeves got destroyed, so it is just the cases now. A couple of CDs by group, I'd say. Nine Invisibles, kind of like trancey 90s dub. Fantastic underrated group called Campag Valicet. It's kind of a mixture of Sneaker Pimps and I'd say Oasis. It's kind of a, what do you call it, an acquired taste, his vocals, but his lyrics are brilliant. Pete Voss. Then next to that, we've got some Thomas Dolby, John Martin. That's, in my opinion, he's my favourite album, his best album, One World. A few Kate Bush CDs. I used to be nuts on her, but then kind of went off for a bit, but I've still got them there. And then Exit by Tangerine Dream. GTA 4 got me into a lot of music, and that's one of the songs off that, Remote Viewing. The soundtrack to Escape from New York by John Carpenter. The soundtrack to Fletch. That's by Harold Faltermeyer. Terence Trent D'Arby's Vibrator. It's a mental album. Northern Sulphuric Soul, Rain Christian. I need to get their second album as well. That's really good. ABC The Lexicon of Love. That's Trevor Horn produced again. These two albums here are by a Italian guy who did some stuff with Vangelis, hence me having the CDs of them there. Pink Floyd, The Division Bell. Again, in my opinion, I think that's the best album they did. The last track, High Hopes, and the end of their career with that song. If it had stayed like that instead of The Endless River, that would have been great. Brian Eno, The Pearl. I think that should be in another cupboard because I've got another one of Brian Eno's CDs. Sexor by Tiga. Again, I need two more of his CDs. It's always a struggle trying to build up the collection. Music for the Motion Picture of Tomb Raider. Underrated film, some brilliant music on that. Angelo Badalamenti, Twin Peaks. I need to get Julie Cruz's stuff. These, you may think, oh, why have you got CDs by Donna Summer? But Moroder did a lot of the production for her stuff. And then on one of the sides of the records, he just let loose and do a load of weird electronic stuff, which I think was really ahead of its time. And from here, we've got a guy called Mark Isham. Got into his music from The Hitcher, fantastic film. And then this era, his music all kind of sounds the same, hence why I've got it. It's all good Windham Hill stuff as well, if you're into that. Lindsey Buckingham, Out of the Cradle. Again, I need more of his stuff. I need to get the original CD of Go Insane. It's a brilliant album, one of his best albums, and that is not an opinion, that is a fact. Peter Godwin, who was in a band called Metro. That's another band I need to get their debut CD of. And Gary Newman, The Pleasure Principle. So yeah, that's another cupboard done. Okay, so in this cupboard I have a lot of mainly prints, but there is some other stuff in here. I've got a Fleetwood Mac box set, an original, not the reissue they did a few years ago. The other CD is actually downstairs. I need to put that back. Prince 1999 box set. When this came out, it was fantastic just to hear the 2 full discs worth of stuff that we'd all listened to from cassette tape and then dubbed down to MP3. Raven 2, is it Raven 2? The Joy Fantastic? Raven to the year 2000. Yeah, Raven to the Joy Fantastic. Yeah, one of those things anyway. This is when he changed his name and went a bit weird. I only have this for kind of the collector's sake. The Purple Rain Tours is kind of a remastered set. Oh wow, I didn't realise it had the Blu-ray video in it. I'll have to watch that then. Jethro Tull. I've only got this because I like the sound of the synths that Eddie Jobson contributed to it. And I also like UK and anything else that's got the Yamaha CS80 on it. You will see a lot of Vangelis later on. I'm just on the floor right now, so bear with us. So the far left, we've got Landscape A Go-Go. That's a box set by Landscape, who did Einstein A Go-Go. Spare Edwyn Collins CD, that should be up in the other cupboard. Got a couple of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds CDs. And then we've got Lindsey Buckingham with Christine McVie. That was a pretty decent album. It's kind of Tango with the Night vibes. A couple of Tenacious D CDs there. That was the first CD that I ever owned. Pick a Destiny. David Lovelace, a guy on YouTube. He had a band called Parallax and he sent me a free CD. Absolutely mental stuff. Compilation CD of Clanad. And then that Nick Cave should be back there. This was actually a bootleg CD that I'd made myself. This should be in the cupboard with all the Michael Cretu stuff. And pretty much I just downloaded these files off the internet that somebody made and made my own. Brian Eno, that should be back with the other one. but it is next to the 2 Talking Heads CDs that I own. The only ones that I like, but Remain in Light was produced by Brian Eno. Next to that, Röyksopp, AM Malady. Then Paris, Texas by Ry Cooder. Got another fat box CD of Aphrodite's Child. I've got the other CDs in the cupboard with Vangelis. That was Demis Roussos and Vangelis' prog rock band. That was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra version of the Tomb Raider suite that I mentioned. Michael Jackson Thriller 40. A Japanese import of Purple Rain, which I need to sell because I don't need that. Then we're on to some Prince, so I'm just going to go along. That was a disaster of a release. It was Rush released when Prince died, and half the tracks sound terrible. And then as we come down, these are all reissues. Getting along to here now, these are all originals. That was a reissue, that's an original, that's an original, original, reissue, original, reissue, original, and then they're all reissues with 94 East. And that was Prince's first musical outings that were released officially. And sadly, Pepe Wilson died recently, which is a shame. So, yeah, that's one cupboard out the way. I think we've got 2, 3 to go after this one. Okay, so this cupboard's a bit more full, but this was the first CD that I bought with my own money. Vangelis 3 CD of Blade Runner. It's a shame because they still haven't done a full, complete, official set. This should be, again, a lot of sorting out to do, a lot of collecting to complete, but this should be with the other CD, and it's signed by Martin Fry. Spare copy of Drama by Yes. This was a bootleg CD that I'd made myself, designed the covers, etc., printed them all off, and it's a live bootleg from Vangelis. We have got a lot of Vangelis to get through here. This is a Japanese original. This is his first solo album. Well, that's a Greek CD. Japanese import. In my opinion, the best album he did. The talent on this album is just extraordinary. I originally bought all these and was missing this one, and it took me about a year or 2 to get a Japanese pressing. It was that rare at the time. I think, even though it's his most iconic, I think it's his most boring album, Chariots of Fire. Antarctica. I've never seen the film, but I do like the music from this. This is probably his most accessible album, Soil Festivities. Very ambient music, it's very nice. This is a bit more gothic sounding. Borderline opera. Then this is when he kind of went into the MIDI phase, which a lot of people did in the 90s. They dumped all of the synthesizers and stuff, and opted for computer-related sounds. And then again, Aphrodite's Child. These 2 CDs should be with the other one. Short Stories. That was his solo album he did with John Anderson. His second one, I think it's just an utterly brilliant album, to the point I actually own a poster of it. So, yeah. Then he did that's the third one he did, Private Collection. It's a bit sloppy, to be honest with you. Heaven and Hell, genius work. Albedo 0.39. I think all versions of this album just sound really poor. Spiral, that's probably my favourite one, I'd have to say, alongside China. Boberg, that was just an experimental demonstration for the Yamaha CS80. And then we're back to kind of like his 90s, well, it's not 1990s, it was 1988, but kind of the MIDI-based stuff. And then, just adjusting myself, yeah. Top left, Irene Pappas, he did 2 solo albums for her. Pretty much it's a Vangelis album with Greek singing over the top. Portraits, it's a compilation. Themes, compilation. Conquest of Paradise, and then we're on to Japan now. So that's, I do need Adolescent Sex, but I've got the second album, third, fourth. What's that one? Fifth. Yeah, so I've got that one. This one is, get get out of the way, there we go. Oil on Canvas, this is the 2 CD version, it plays the full versions of songs. So I think that's Japan gone now, yeah? No, I'm going to go back a minute. Gentlemen Take Polaroids, this was very expensive. It's not the very first issue, but it is one of the later issues using the same audio. It sounds miles better than the UK CDs. As with the Grace Jones ones, I think this is an American import, so it plays the LP version of the album, not the silly remixed CD version. The Underrated second album, Liverpool. A couple of yellow CD singles, and again with the eras of different artists, what I like. This is my favourite era. I didn't like the very early stuff, and I didn't like the very late stuff. A few reissues of Fleetwood Mac. We've got a Spark CD up here, which I'll get to in just a second. Very interesting cover art there. What's that say? Gratuitous Sax and Senseless Violins, a very decent album from the 90s. And these 3 here, which are on, I think, Bud Music, these are all master tape sourced. There's a big thing with Sparks and Giorgio Moroder. The Repertoire Records in Germany just keep putting out all these terrible CDs and LPs which are vinyl sourced, but these are actually master sourced. And then we've got a big chunk of Todd Rundgren here. Now, these aren't first presses, but they are original CDs. I'd spent a lot of money on getting those there, the original American presses, the Rhino CDs. But they were pressed at Discovery, and they all had disc rot, and they didn't play. So it turns out in Germany they did some carbon copies of them, but with a different barcode, so that's them there. So yeah, I've got all of Todd Rundgren's stuff there as well. So I think we've just got one more cupboard left to do now. So we're at the other side of the room. I've got a similar setup with similar kind of like layout, if you'd call it, of the cupboards. This one is just strictly Sneaker Pimps stuff. I run a website on the band Sneaker Pimps called Sneaker Pimps Legacy. When I was single and had plenty of money, basically used the excuse to build a website on a band that I was absolutely nuts on. And then this is all the stuff that I've collected. So you've got all different CD singles in there, promotional versions, remix versions, American imports, blah blah blah. And then there's all these collaborations. Double 99, Ultra Fox, Robots in Disguise, who ended up in the Mighty Boosh, a band called The Servant, a band called Trash Money, and this is actually their second album, which has never ever been released, but Chris Tate was kind enough to send me a copy, and it's a shame because it's very, very decent stuff, but I doubt anybody's ever going to see this to get angry about. A load of promotional stuff down here and some cassette tapes. So yeah, that's pretty much my CD collection at the moment. If you found this video interesting, let us know. If there's anything here that you've got, also let us know, and thanks for watching.